So what makes soccer boring? I think the reason soccer is boring is no one wants to sit around for 90 minutes and have a game end 0-0. There's nothing exciting about that. There's nothing that makes you think to yourself, wow, that was a really enjoyable match. I can't wait for the next one. And the reason I think that soccer has such a struggle with attracting American viewers is because we have sports like basketball and football that constantly have action going all the time. In basketball, a guy can make a three-pointer. They take out of bounds, they throw it back in. A guy on the other team scores a three-pointer. There's high-paced action all the time. In football, a guy can run down, score a touchdown. We celebrate. We're excited. Then we, do the kickoff, and they return it for another touchdown, and we're back to where we started. It's exciting. There's always that feeling inside of you of how the heck are we going to, overcome this opposition. In soccer, there's that same feeling, but it's over 90 minutes, and oftentimes that feeling only happens once a game when you score that first goal, or maybe when you score that second goal. So in order to attract a larger following, soccer must change. And I've got 6 things that I'd like to change about soccer in order to do that. First of all, is flops. When you think of soccer players and fouls, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Most likely, it's going to be the acting. Whenever a soccer player takes a hit, they do some sort of overdramatic flop. They fall down, they roll around on the ground for a couple minutes. And according to footballbible.com, flops that are intended to deceive a ref are supposed to be punishable by a yellow card. Unfortunately, with inertia, with actual pain, all that stuff, you can never really tell if someone actually flops unless there wasn't any sort of contact made. I want to take this one step further. If they're unable to get up within 15 seconds of some sort of perceived foul, I think they should be taken off the field for 5 minutes. I think they should be forced to sit down for 5 minutes to get checked out by some sort of trainer. And I think that this is good for 2 reasons. I think this decreases lasting injuries. So if they have a calf injury or something that actually will just keep building, a bruise that could just keep getting worse and worse and worse as they play on, they can get it checked out. The coach can actually decide if they want to put them back in, and allows them to be at full health for the rest of their career. It also is more respectful to other players on the opposing team because they're not rolling around on the ground, giving their own team a chance to rest, and make sure the game is constantly going and the action is always in progress. Next up, I want to have unlimited subs. Previously, I mentioned how when they'd be injured, or if they're down on the ground for longer than 15 seconds, they'd have to come out of the game for at least 5 minutes to be checked out. The reason that that is a bad idea initially is that you only have a limited amount of subs in soccer. You can only have 3 subs the entire game, and injuries count as part of that. So if 3 players get injured, those count as all 3 of your subs. If you've subbed 3 players in and the player gets injured, you have to play a man down. So I think that making unlimited subs would not only allow us to make sure that the game was being played correctly and that flops were being, that if someone went down for longer than 15 seconds, we could take them out and check them out and make sure that people weren't wasting time. I think it would also further allow the game to be as explosive as possible. Imagine if every 5 minutes the midfield was rotating out, and then the next 5 minutes the forwards were rotating out. Granted, you would have to have a deeper bench, but if every single second of soccer was as interesting as the first 20 minutes when everyone is full of energy, I think the game would be much more high pace. And Dear Sports Fan agrees with me about this. Injuries as a goalie is one of the most serious things in soccer because if you don't have any more subs, you actually have to have one of your players go back and play goalie for you, and they're allowed to put on the goalie equipment, but you can't sub an additional goalie into the game if you've already used all of your subs. So this would also help with the issue of having your goalie get injured after you've already subbed all of your players and not be able to do anything about it and potentially lose a game because of it. Next up is the concept of the sin bin, and this comes from BleacherReport.com. So yellow cards are relatively light in soccer. In the professional levels and a lot of the high risk games, high cost games, yellow cards do carry over to the next match. But some of the friendly matches and some of the younger levels, like if you're playing in high school, and even to some college degrees, or some college level games, the yellow card is only good for that game. So what I'd like to do is introduce the concept of a sin bin, which again is from BleacherReport.com. It says if you get a yellow card, you actually have to sit out of the game for 5 minutes, and you're not allowed to put another player into the game during that 5 minutes. So not only is the yellow card directly affecting the game at that exact moment by giving the other team 1 extra player on the field, it also makes sure that the entire team is being punished for the consequences of one person deciding to be more aggressive. I think if this concept is implemented, the game will be less aggressive overall. People won't be trying to feel out what they can get away with and what they can't get away with. It'll be more about finesse and more about the sport in general. Next up, I'd like to introduce the concept of a smaller field size. So why are basketball and football more exciting? As I said originally, they're smaller fields on average. Football's about the same size as soccer, but soccer is a little bit longer and a little bit wider. But the option to be able to just go down the court really quickly in basketball and dunk it, the option to throw a really long pass and all of a sudden have a touchdown in football, is what makes it so exciting. The fields are the exact right size for the game. It's the right amount for success to be achieved on a regular basis, and it's the right amount for it to be something where it's short enough to where you're still excited because they might not be able to achieve their goal, but you're also excited because they still could achieve their goal. I think that's the problem with soccer, is that the field is too long, it's too wide, the ball gets stuck in one area, and we're just kind of waiting, and they don't even get a shot off, which is what really takes out the excitement of the game, is all this hard work that leads to absolutely no attempt at the goal at all. I think if you make the field smaller, there'll be less chances to be offsides, which is another thing that can really kill the momentum and enjoyment of a game. I think there'll be more shots on goal, and overall there'll be a quicker pace of the game. Next, I'd like instant replays to be able to change calls, specifically involving the penalty kicks. Lots of times games can be completely solely won because of a missed call inside of a penalty box area that results in a penalty kick, and the penalty kick is taken, all of a sudden a team is up by 1 point, and there's nothing that anyone can do about it, even though the call was completely miscalled. In soccer, originally, was built to be played without a scoreboard, with only a stopwatch, with only pen and paper, with only one ref. So the concept of the ref having to stand by their calls was implemented from a very early age, and that's something that's just kind of carried over because we want to only be able to play with one ref. We want to be able to do a very minimalist sport. I think that's kind of silly, though, when you've got the option to have an instant replay and completely change the outcome of the game by saying, no, you guys aren't allowed to take the penalty kick, which very well keeps the game alive at that point. This has actually already been implemented in goal line shots. Refs have watches on the wrists that vibrate whenever the ball has crossed the goal line, and we also have a cam to make sure that's actually happened. While the cam itself can't change the ball, or can't change the call, the ref should ideally have already made the call based on his watch vibrating when the ball crosses the goal line. So this is a similar instance where this idea and this technology has already been implemented. I just think we need to give the refs the okay to go ahead and repeal a call. And lastly, I want to change how much goals are worth. This concept comes from Forbes.com. Goals ideally would be worth 2 points, and penalty kicks would be worth 1 point. This, in theory, would make penalty kicks less punishing for a team who ends up losing a game because of a penalty kick. Penalty kicks are still valuable; they're still worth taking. You could have a game be tied 2-2, and all of a sudden it's 3-2. But with 5 minutes left in the game, the other team still has a chance to score a goal, gain 2 points, and even win the game, rather than just tie the game up. So I believe that the concept of changing the value system of the goals based on penalty kicks and regular goals is worth considering. Of course, there are always reasons to not change soccer. You're always going to have your people that say, well, soccer's always been this way forever, we should keep it this way forever. It's a minimalist sport, other countries play soccer, we need to make sure we're all on the same page. I'd like to discuss all of those. So this is from freedomtotinker.com. And their explanation is that soccer is a scaled-down sport. What that means for people who aren't familiar with the idea of the scaled-down sport is similar to volleyball and similar to baseball. Soccer is it's basically the exact same sport you're playing when you're like 8 as it is when you're a professional. So none of the rules change. You always know what the rules are. You get very familiar with playing with rules. You know exactly what you can do and what you can't do. And everyone who's watching TV is already familiar with the rules because they've played soccer at some point in their life. The reason I don't like this scale-down sport idea is that people are playing pickup games all the time of basketball without the proper equipment, without the proper amount of players. People are playing football all the time at pickup level without running any plays, without running pads. I think the same is true for soccer. You play 2 cones on the side. You don't actually have a goal. You don't actually have any sort of out-of-bounds markers. I don't think that the scale-down concept is very legitimate just because people and humans naturally change rules all the time just to be able to accommodate to play the sport they want to play. Next up is the concept of soccer being played throughout the world. A lot of people say this would be really hard if we introduced a lot of rules all at once to an entire global community. A lot of countries might not be able to acquiesce to those rules if they don't have enough money. They won't be able to purchase sideline technology, sort of goal line technology, instant replays, stuff like that, which makes sense. Which is why I suggest implementing these rules over a period of time. I want to be able to implement these once a year, maybe once every 2 years, until we're all on the same page. We've all kind of accommodated all the countries, allowed them to slowly plan for this growth. Lastly, I'd like to rebuttal all of my previous points. I think that people play the pickup sports. In conclusion, the growth of soccer's fandom is slow. Basketball and football have been exploding for years. That's because they're high action. There's a lot of risk involved with whether you're or not you're going to be able to make the shot to end the game and stuff like that. Soccer has that same amount of risk, but has a less amount of opportunities to score goals, has less opportunities to sub in and make people have fresh legs to make the game more exciting, etc. I believe these rules will attract new fans while also making the sport enjoyable for old fans. If we can attract new fans, that leads to more profit for FIFA. And with this profit, we can actually help other countries who are in poverty. We can buy new kids soccer balls, soccer shoes. We can make sure they have nice fields and stuff like that, which will further increase the love of the sport and lead to more fans. And with this profit, will lead to more job creation. And with more job creation, we can start the entire cycle again. Thanks for your attention, and I appreciate you guys listening to me.